No, I mean, you know, it was a good time being off a bit and do something else. But due to Mercedes having a great weekend here with their own grandstand and stuff like that, all the DTM drivers had to come. And it's quite good to see the other side of it as well.
How's it going in the DTM for you at the moment?
Well, I mean, you know, being in the used car it is a bit difficult, but that was the target of it, just to learn and see how it goes through the year, whether I can be as good as the other used car drivers, which is working relatively okay. And I just enjoy it, I have to say. Less pressure, less, you know, just different kind of racing.
Ralf Schumacher, Michael Schumacher, they're the past here at Hockenheim. It's Lewis Hamilton on pole position, getting set to leave the McLaren garage. And a couple of races ago, Mark, we were talking about perhaps Lewis being a little bit overwound up about races, over-driving. New sense, a new calmness about him this weekend.
I think that calmness has come off the back of the British Grand Prix. I think that win that he took there has given him an extra boost. And I think it's put everything in perspective. And he's actually lifting his game again, I think. He's actually taking a little step backwards to go 2 steps forward, and you can see that.
Because we've heard from Michael Schumacher, we've heard from Niki Lauda during the course of our programme. From here on in, it's consistency that counts.
It's going to be consistency for any of the guys to try and achieve those 3 at the moment, because that's what's going to count for this championship. Everybody who keeps knocking in those valuable points, and when the rough days turn up and they still produce a result, that's what's going to really make it happen come the end of this season when they tally up the points.
So Lewis Hamilton on the way to take up the 9th pole position of his Formula One career, and he's got a pretty good results record from pole position. We shall see this afternoon. Cars heading for the grid anyway, and it's a circuit that does have its own very distinctive atmosphere, Hockenheim. Life on some of the surrounding campsites here can be a little exuberant and a little primitive. They loved it here when Michael Schumacher was winning races, but having 5 German drivers on the grid as we do this afternoon, what is the next best thing?
German drivers make up a quarter of the field. So with Michael Schumacher's legacy playing an increasingly important role in the sport, here's the F1 guide to better understanding the Germans. We come to Germany as English people. There are a few things we don't understand. Can you explain the attraction of David Hasselhoff to the German public?
No, I can't.
Can you tell us a German joke?
I'm not so good in jokes. You have to ask for something else.
Hello. They're very loud, the German fans, and especially the camping ones. They like their hard rock.
What's the fascination with David Hasselhoff?
This I never understood as well, so...
They pull each other's leg and have fun and have a couple of beers, but they are good guys.
And the air horns as well. It's always loud. It's the loud thing, as you remember when you come to Germany.
Can you tell us something funny in German? Maybe a favourite joke of yours?
No, there is no fun in Germany.
In all fairness, I think as an Englishman you shouldn't criticize our style of eating or food, because you're not very famous for having a good menu.
And there are some beautiful girls here.
The German humor, I think, is quite dry, so sometimes if I try and use that in English, it doesn't really work out. People think, what an idiot is this guy?
I wanted to ask an urbane Frenchman what it's like coming to Germany, where maybe the style and sophistication of Europe seems to have escaped some of the people around here.
That's coming out of your mouth, dude.
So 5 German drivers on the grid, but you have to say that none of them are actually threatening race victory today, which I suppose in its own way is no laughing matter. Instead, it's Britain and Brazil on the front row, Hamilton and Massa, and Martin Brundle will be on the grid with them for our final race build-up in a few minutes' time. The grid is forming for the German Grand Prix here at Hockenheim. The celebrities are gathering. No bigger celebrity in these parts than Michael Schumacher, in animated conversation there with Flavio Briatore, who was so much a part of Michael Schumacher's early success. And of course, the last time the German Grand Prix was here at Hockenheim, it was Schumacher winning in a Ferrari. Ferrari, a team with such a fantastic record on this circuit. 18 times they've won the German Grand Prix, twice as many as any other constructor. But Luis is out there on the grid, and Michael Schumacher will watch things from the wings, but Luis is with David Coulthard.
Yeah, David Coulthard, who's a big celebrity in my book. But DC, we've been hearing earlier on that your seat's going to be taken by Sebastian Vettel next season. What kind of job do you think he's going to do?
Well, I think he's showing that he's mature, capable, making good use of our car. And rumour has it he's got a little more horsepower behind him as well. So, you know, I think it'll be quite a close race between us.
What about today? What kind of job do you think you're going to be able to do? Because you're starting quite well.
Yeah, no, we should be okay. We're a bit longer than the guys in front. Don't know where we are, obviously, relative to those outside the top 10. But it's, you know, the people who are in front of us are genuinely quicker. So if they run normally, that'll be difficult to get a point.
Cheers, David.
Thanks.
We say at every race, but that midfield battle is going to be quite intense, and Red Bull are very much part of it these days. But what about this man, Felipe Massa? Bad race at Silverstone, but so often he follows a bad race with a very good one.
To be the case, and I think Massa's got really to push today and make sure he gets that 10 points. And I'm interested to see when it comes to the first stops who's going to stop first, because I've got a sneaky feeling that possibly Ferrari with Massa could be a little bit longer than maybe Lewis and McLaren, and I think also Kovalainen might have a little bit more left in him as well, but let's wait and see.
Jenson Button, what he'd give for a decent result here. He was fourth at Hockenheim last time they had the German Grand Prix, followed that up immediately a week later with victory at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Those were the days for Jenson.
Yeah, I think he'd like to have those days back, but I don't think they're too far away, to be honest. I think Honda are definitely ready for 2009.
But Jenson will be taking his place on row 7 alongside Nico Rosberg in the Williams, and we'll be heading down to that grid, which Jenson Button is just about to join. We'll be heading down there as well to join Jenson at the back of the grid, and also to join Martin Brundle, who's down there somewhere.
Welcome to the grid. Well, as you said, 2006 since we were last here. So many changes since then. We had 2 Schumachers on the grid back then, Michelin tyres, of course, and as you probably heard in qualifying yesterday, half of this field didn't drive in that Grand Prix. So a lot of new boys out there to that extent, although many of them would have driven the circuit in the lesser formulae. Let's see if we can just have a word here. Lewis Hamilton, great pole position. Heard lots from him in the show so far. And quick word from his dad. Anthony, how's Lewis? Anything he said this morning? He seemed super confident after quali.
No, he's fine. To be quite honest, he's just been relaxing in his room this morning and just looking forward to getting on with the race.
All right, good stuff. Good luck. Big job ahead. Now, I think Lewis is going to have his hands full with Felipe Massa. He did a tremendous run in practice, a long run. Maybe this Ferrari's a little bit softer and easier on its tyres over those longer stints. And I'm hearing that they're not expecting rain in the race. There might be a bit of a sprinkling later on, which could challenge the driver. We saw that happen in the GP2 race, and it was absolute pandemonium. Let's see if we can find a peddler to talk to. Jarno Trulli is over here, and let's see if we can just squeeze through. Jarno, quick word, ITV, how's it going?
Pretty well. The car seems balanced and especially competitive on this track again. So the team is moving ahead. I'm really happy because they're doing a very good job and they give me the chance, to battle with the front runners.
So who are you racing today, do you reckon? Who's your main competition? You expect to see anything of the gearboxes of Hamilton and Massa and Kovalainen?
Well, you know that I'm quite realistic. I cannot race Ferrari or McLaren, but maybe I can try to race BMW and for sure Renault.
What about your old teammate then, Fernando Alonso? Is he a bit lighter than you, do you think?
I think we are on a similar strategy. I just hope to have one more extra lap, which will save me especially for the first stint, and then we will see.
Finally, your red wine this year is the best so far. Thanks for sending it. Cheers. He's such a nice bloke, isn't he? Let's have a wander down, see if we can find a BMW driver. I haven't spoken to one of those for a while. And plenty of people on the grid, isn't it? It's a nice feeling down there. Really sort of busy sort of hustle and bustle going on down here. And somebody just telling me that Häkkinen is heading my way. Haven't seen him. I don't know if we've passed him. I'd love to let's do a Marty's random person. Haven't done one of these. Excuse me, who are you? Do you speak English?
Yes, of course.
What are you doing on the grid today?
I'm a journalist. I'm here just to see the final moments before the start.
You look like Fernando Alonso's older brother, to be honest.
Pardon?
You look like Alonso's older brother.
No, not at all. I'm Italian. I work for Corriere della Sera. And my colleague...
Who do you want to win today, then?
Sorry?
Who do you expect to win today?
Oh, yes, I think Lewis, because it's very difficult to overtaking here. So I think that if in a normal race, without rain, I think that Lewis can win. Yes.
Right. Well, we hope there's loads of rain and it's complete and utter carnage and chaos, because that makes for good races. Let's just dive in and speak to my old McLaren teammate here, Mika Häkkinen, talking to Pedals from the Red Bull team. Mika, good to see you, mate. You're looking very glossy here, I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Is that retirement that's done that? Is it all the bling stuff?
Yes and no.
Right, what are you doing here? You working this weekend for Mercedes-Benz or something?
Well, first of all, I'm ambassador for Mercedes-Benz, doing a lot of work for Johnny Walker to be ambassador for them, to doing a campaign, Don't Drink and Drive. Also doing a work for Hermes, the logistic company here in Germany.
Yeah, right, now we don't need to get...
Is long.
Right, your old manager, Keke Rosberg, was just telling me that he said, when I was managing him, I couldn't get him to do one PR event, and now he doesn't stop. What's the difference? You're bored at home or something?
No, I tell you what, I enjoy doing this enormously. Motor racing for me was the great passion in my life. I want to be successful in Formula One and motor racing. Now this is my life, I want to be successful what I do, work with my partners. And all these partners more or less are the partners when I was racing. And I want to give them the best shot to do the...
That's a McLaren term partner. We call them sponsors. Now, your trophies got burned down in the house. Did you lose all of your trophies? Because I nearly cried when I heard that. Genuinely, that's terrible. Is it true?
Yeah, it was a really, really dreadful situation. Yeah, I lost all my trophies, so I had to. Thanks for the McLaren. They will help me to get all the trophies back. Yeah, it's a sad. But again, it's just a material,
But the tortoise is okay, yeah? The tortoise is not with you anymore. Oh God! Now I've touched the really. Right. I wonder if I have a feeling that we might even be able to talk to Mr. Fernando Alonso. Is he sort of up for it? He's been off for a comfort break. He's been back, talked to his engineers, and I'm hoping that we might actually. Good luck, Sebastian. Hope we might actually be able to... well, look, we're on a bit of a false journey here. This has taken us away from going to find Nick Heidfeld. So I think I'm going to throw back to Mr. Steve Ryder.
Another brave effort from Martin, but things are just a little bit impenetrable down there on the grid. Interesting to hear, though, that Martin certainly thinks that Lewis this afternoon has got his hands full of Felipe Massa's challenge.
I think that's based upon just watching the Ferraris at work, especially Massa this weekend. He's been doing long runs, probably 5 or 6 laps. They've been very consistent, and that's going to be a major concern for Lewis Hamilton with his tyres.
OK, let's hear from Jenson Button, who's with Louise before the music starts.
Jenson, first thing I have to say to you is, what is it with those shades?
What do you mean?
Well, is that your latest look?
Well, they match the outfit, so I thought they were perfect for the grid. Mikey's got the red pair on. We're just looking for a green pair at the moment.
Well, you can keep those for yourself. I don't think I'll be bothering you for them. Let's talk about some racing. How are you looking today? I mean, you're starting down at the back of the grid, but what's the best you can expect for?
Well, it's not quite the back. That was the last couple of races. We're a little bit further up. I'm 14th on the grid, so we'll see what we can do. I just got to try and stay out of trouble on the first lap. It's been a bit of a pain the last couple of races, but if we can, we'll see how it goes. I mean, I don't know how we compare to the people around us. So we'll see. I mean, points are very difficult, but you never know. I mean, this is a place where so much can happen. So
how big is the potential for trouble here?
There is quite a bit. Turn 1, the hairpin, not just on the first lap either. I mean, it can happen later in the race because there are possibilities for overtaking to the hairpin. But it's also very easy to lock a front or lock a rear, so you can be barreling down the inside completely locked up. So there's potential for a lot of excitement, and I'm looking forward to it.
Cheers, mate. See you later.
Well, the message is clear there for Lewis. Even if he does make the perfect start, it's that hairpin and maybe the run down to the hairpin which is the biggest problem on the first lap for him.
Now, of course, he's going to be hoping to get away first and just lead into that hairpin and use the reference points for himself, and everybody's going to have to work back from that. But, you know, just looking at Jenson Button there and those few words, he's got a level of confidence. I think he knows his car's better in race trim than what it is in qualifying trim, so he may have a sensible day.
Where do you stand on respective fuel loads? What have you learnt this morning?
I'm pretty sure, and I may be proven wrong by this, but Massa's got a little bit more fuel in than the McLaren guys, and I think maybe even a split between Kovalainen and Hamilton by a lap or two. So let's see on that, Steve. But if that is the case, Lewis has really got to make a break for it early on.
OK, well, a reminder of all the information you can get on the ITV F1 website as Lewis Hamilton gives his last few handshakes. And this is what you can get on the website. Background on the sport. You can play the fantasy game as well, get video updates. That's the website. A reminder also of the ITV F1 competition.
This week we've got a trip to the Italian race, courtesy of Abbey and Santander. You and a friend will have VIP hospitality at the historic Monza racetrack on Saturday the 13th and Sunday the 14th of September. You'll have your flights included, 3 nights accommodation at a 4-star hotel near the track and transfers to and from the airport and the circuit. To be in with a chance of winning this prize from Abbey and Santander, just answer this question correctly. Which team is based closest to Monza? Is it A, Ferrari, B, Renault, or C, Honda? To enter, call 090 4959 6789. Calls cost £1 from a BT landline. Calls from other networks may be higher, and from mobiles will be considerably more. Or you can text the word F1 and your answer, A, B or C, to 63337. Text cost £1 plus 1 standard network rate message. Digital, satellite and cable viewers can enter by pressing their red button now. You can also enter for free at itv.com until 5 p.m. on Friday the 25th of July. Entrance must be 18 or over and lines close at 5 p.m. on Tuesday the 22nd of July. Entries made after closing time won't be counted but may still be charged.
Good luck with that. The countdown continues here at Hockenheim to the start of the German Grand Prix. We heard from Martin Brundle down on the grid that the feeling is that rain is not going to be a factor this afternoon. Some teams feel otherwise. Temperature could be, though, and if the temperature goes up, how could that help Ferrari in particular?
That plays into their hands, basically, because if the temperature starts climbing, track temperature climbs up there with it, then that's going to be a little bit of an advantage for Ferrari, because they do use their tyres a little bit better than what the McLaren does. McLaren a little bit harder on the tyre wear, and I think also for Lewis, the striving style that he's got, a little bit tougher on those front tyres. But as we are at the moment, I think they're okay. I don't think it's going to get to those kind of temperatures, going to have that big effect on the race.
Does seem to be slightly less of a breeze around the circuit than there was yesterday. That was troubling the drivers yesterday.
That was a big problem for a number of guys. They were getting caught out with crosswinds, they were getting onto the line and just turning in, and then the wind just catching them halfway through. And as you say, I think it's died down slightly, so we're being for a more consistent race.
We saw Robert Kubica there, who'll be starting off row 4 with Mark Webber. Home Grand Prix, of course, for BMW, but they do seem to be up against it.
They are a little bit behind where they expected to be, I'm sure of that, and I think BMW would prefer to be sitting there on the front row alongside their colleagues in Germany with Mercedes-Benz. But, you know, that's the sort of thing what happens when you have a bit of focus halfway through the season. It's very difficult to keep it going all the way through.
But sitting on the front row, sitting on pole position, much to the pleasure of Ron Dennis, is Lewis Hamilton. And that British Grand Prix of 2 weeks ago, it was absolutely electrifying viewing, and it brought this 2008 championship to a whole new competitive level. But who has the momentum from now on into the second half of the season? Well, it looks like Hamilton on the evidence of yesterday's qualifying, but the next couple of hours here at Hockenheim are going to provide some very important answers. If you thrill to the events of Silverstone, you'll be more than eager to see what lies in store at Hockenheim. British Grand Prix winner Lewis Hamilton is on pole position for this 10th round of the Formula One World Championship, and the German Grand Prix is described by Martin Brundle and James Allen.
Thank you, Steve. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hockenheim. Well, Formula One is dominated by technology, but it's still about men and machines. And when the cars are so closely matched as they are at the moment, it's the human story that comes to the fore. Lewis Hamilton comes here to Hockenheim with the echoes of the Silverstone crowd still ringing in his ears. He's on a real high, and the true story behind it all is that he's found a way to be more controlled and not overdrive the car while losing none of his pure speed. Well, it makes him hard to beat for the second half of the championship, and he showed just how hard yesterday in qualifying with a perfect pole position lap. As Lewis said, he's a daredevil, but he's realised how he has to use his mind and be sensible. And this is all pretty unsettling for Ferrari, who are asking themselves how one of their drivers could spin 5 times in the race at Silverstone, as Massa did, and how the other one could get lost on setup so badly on a relatively straightforward track, such as this, as Kimi Raikkonen has done this weekend. These are certainly anxious times at Ferrari. There is Rod Smedley, Felipe Massa's race engineer. But of course, they do have the car to get the job done, but definitely some doubts creeping in about the driver's ability to deliver the goods. But make no mistake, this weekend though, and this afternoon in particular, Ferrari are definitely in the hunt for the victory if they can just maximise their potential. Today's race will be all about pushing as hard as possible without damaging the rear tyres, and that's something that Ferrari are better at than McLaren. So it genuinely is a true test of Lewis Hamilton's newfound poise. Elsewhere, just looking at Jarno Trulli there's some great backup stories too. Can Trulli do as he did in France in Magny-Cours, translate a great grid slot into a podium finish? What about Fernando Alonso? Tremendous qualifying performance. The Renaults have struggled a little bit with holding on to the rear tyres in race conditions. Can he turn that around this afternoon and get a sack full of points? And what about Raikkonen? Will he be able to force his way through? Always stronger in the Grand Prix than he is in qualifying. Heikki Kovalainen possibly running a couple of laps longer in the first stint than teammate Hamilton. And Robert Kubica, BMW, not really been all that quick this weekend, but he's such a trier in the Grand Prix. Nicely set up, Martin.
It is. I'm really looking forward to seeing how far Raikkonen can get and if his car will handle better in race conditions than it did yesterday. It was sort of understeering like a supermarket trolley on the way in and an airport trolley oversteering like an airport trolley on the way out. It looked a right handful, and I can't understand where why that setup would be so different to Massa's car, but and of course they can't change it much overnight because of the Parc Fermé regulations. So Raikkonen possibly with a bit of a handful underneath him, but we know how fast he can be, and let's see if it transforms itself as the rubber goes down in the race and he begins to find a new way with the car. But I think it'll be a real head-to-head between Hamilton and Massa up front too.
Well, that's certainly what we all want to see. There's Sebastian Vettel, who grew up just half an hour away from here. One of 5 German drivers in the field. David Coulthard in the top 10 again in Red Bull in his Indian summer of his Grand Prix career. Jenson Button, reasonably pleased with 14th. Honda not the quickest car at the moment. A lot of the effort being focused on next year. Rubens Barrichello, that's his worst qualifying performance of the season, actually, coming off the back of that podium in Silverstone. And Nelson Piquet, a bit unfortunate. He was quick all through free practice, and I think he just got a bit out of sync really on the timing of his qualifying runs yesterday. Also felt he was held up a little bit by Sebastian Vettel, but certainly should have been in the top half of the grid, and certainly not as slow as his grid position would suggest. So a hard afternoon's work, I think, for Nelson Piquet. The grid clears. The temperature, 32 degrees, the track temperature. Not as warm as Ferrari would like it. They'd like it above 35, because that's where they really do look after the rear tyres better than McLaren. Looks like a lot of people are starting on the harder of the 2 Bridgestone compounds, and that was certainly a big question going into this Grand Prix, who was going to be able to start on the softs. I can't see too many of them at the moment starting on the softs. Looks like Jarno Trulli might be on the left-hand side.
Yes, they like to use these harder tyres until the track rubbers in a little bit. I think on the softer tyre, the one with the white stripe that Trulli's got, you can get some graining, little balls of rubber on the surface of the tyre, and it's a phase you have to drive through. We see it so much through the Grand Prix, and as you say, the key front runners then have gone for the harder tyre.
Yeah, looks like Trulli's certainly gone for the soft. They do give a little bit of extra grip off the start line. We heard Lewis in his interview with you, actually we'll tell him at the moment, just look at the championship situation going into this Grand Prix. 3-way tie between Hamilton, Massa and Raikkonen with 9 races to go, so it's effectively hitting the reset button and the championship will be decided in the second half of the season. And of course, Kubica can't be counted out, only 2 points behind. But we heard Hamilton in his interview with you talking about how he'd done a practice start at Silverstone. The engineers thought it wasn't good enough, but he was confident. Getting away from the line there didn't look too good for Lewis, and Massa was scorching away, wasn't he? I hope everything's okay.
Well, they pushed him back a couple of metres, as they do with so many of the cars, and I think some of them switched the traction control off to just lay a line of black rubber down. But I would have thought he'd also been rehearsing the start itself. The Mercedes-Benz grandstand there, cleverly showing Lewis and Heikki. They're two favoured runners, of course. Now, McLaren and Mercedes-Benz haven't won this race since 1999, extraordinarily. So they'll be extremely happy to have a German Grand Prix victory.
Well, they've got a long way to go yet. 67 laps of this shortened Hockenheim circuit. Of course, the old track used to be a series of long straights punctuated by short chicanes. It was 40 years ago this year that Jim Clark, one of the great drivers in Formula One history, was killed here at Hockenheim. This a shorter circuit. The memorial to Jim Clark is deep out in the forest where the track used to be, and this is was one of the great high-speed circuits. Now it's still a relatively quick circuit with 2 or 3 very low-speed corners. So one of the reasons why the rear tyres get hammered is, of course, the acceleration out of those low-speed corners.
Sorry, I think I said about Lewis practicing and laying some rubber down off the line. It's the launch control systems they switch off, of course, not the traction control systems. But lining up now, and he'll have to sit on the front of the grid there for well over half a minute now, while the rest of the field line up.
Row 1, Hamilton and Massa, as Charlie Whiting, the race director, feels the adrenaline surging. Row 2, Kovalainen and Trulli. Row 3, Alonso and Raikkonen in the Ferrari. What can he do from there? Row 4, Kubica and Webber. Row 5, Vettel and Coulthard. That's the front half of the grid for this German Grand Prix. Riding on board there with Raikkonen for the start. Hamilton on the right then, Massa on the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ready to go. Away they go. Massa comes across, Hamilton goes defensive and has to go very defensive. Chops the Brazilian into turn 1. Looks like Trulli's had a decent start, fended off Alonso, a couple of the Red Bull cars. I think it might be Vettel at the back, lost a bit of ground there. Hamilton leads it though, Massa coming under some pressure from Kovalainen.
Yes, there was a BMW flew off the start line, presumably Heidfeld as well. Got a tremendous start, but all close action. Down as they head down to the hairpin. Kovalainen fancying a shot at Massa. Massa goes very defensive. Kovalainen on the brakes extremely early. He'll be lucky if he doesn't get run into braking that early, but they're all through. You can only lose the race in this first lap, you can't win it.
Trulli got caught up behind that with Kovalainen braking so hard. He lost ground and lost momentum. Alonso's right with him, but it looks like Kubica has got past Jarno Trulli as a result of that. Here we are riding on board with Raikkonen. He desperately wanted to get ahead of Alonso and Trulli off the start line, instead of which Kubica has already got past him. That means Raikkonen is down in 7th place. Hamilton leads, Massa is 2nd, Kovalainen 3rd. Jarno Trulli has been passed, I think, by Kubica. He's dropped down. Alonso and Raikkonen making up the top 7, with 8th Vettel, 9th Webber and 10th T.Glock.
Yes, I saw a white flash out of the commentary box window after start. It was Kubica who just hooked up a supreme start, and that's what's put him up there into 4th place at the moment. And Hamilton leads by 1.8 seconds at the end of the first lap.
Fantastic start then by Hamilton, helped of course by Massa having to go defensive on Kovalainen in those first few corners, and that's given Hamilton the opportunity to pull away a little bit. The fast corners tend to string the field out in the opening laps. You get quite a big field spread, as it's called, and that means that after only a few laps, Raikkonen will be quite some way behind the leading pair.
Terrible start for David Coulthard down in, and he's having to take a big avoiding action there. And there's Coulthard up behind Button, I believe. So Coulthard, having had a miserable start from 10th on the grid, down to what looks like still 15th, 16th there.
Yep, trying to fend off Rosberg. A tremendous scrap going on in the midfield. Rosberg was in front of him. Coulthard has managed to get back in front. Nakajima is behind his Williams teammate in 16th place. And there is Rubens Barrichello trying to force his way up through the field after a poor qualifying performance yesterday. So Barrichello up into 16th now in front of Nakajima. That's the top 11. Hamilton, the front three have not changed. You can see Kubica with that electric start is the big winner up into 4th place. Jarno Trulli down 1, Alonso down 1, Raikkonen down 1 as well.
Everybody being very cautious indeed down at the hairpin, apart from Lewis Hamilton, it seems, on the brakes. Hamilton's lead up to 2.5 seconds now, but Massa beginning to just peg him back a little bit. Coulthard made a place up in the end, up to 14th on that lap. Let's see what happened down in the first corner. I think you'll see the white BMW of Kubica 4th on the right, making his way through the pack, gets past Alonso in turn 1 just about. Now it must be down at turn 2 then that he makes that move. He'll pass Trulli on the same lap as well. Kovalainen down the outside of Massa at this stage. Massa very fairly gives him enough room, and there'll be another run then. You can really cut the inside of the corner here. Somewhere in that pack, Coulthard went very wide indeed, and that's how Kubica took Alonso and Trulli. Alonso ran wide, held Trulli up. Kubica had the pair of them.
Yeah, and it was all triggered by that very early braking of Kovalainen into that tight hairpin. And there goes Kubica flying off the road and sides back in front of Jarno Trulli. This is the battle for 4th and 5th places, and you have to give back a lot of credit to Trulli. Here comes Alonso attacking him, and he's side by side. Whoa, that was close. That's a 130-mile-an-hour corner, 140-mile-an-hour corner.
Gives Raikkonen a chance then. Alonso went for broke, and it didn't pay off, but he's having to be defensive against Raikkonen. Raikkonen ducks back underneath. Has he got the drive and acceleration? Easily, it turns out. Alonso getting a bit of oversteer, wheel spin, coming out of the corner there, turn 2, and that concertina effect has given Raikkonen a place, but Trulli was able to survive that running off the road, because that's the drag racing strip there, and there's enough grip out there to just run wide and launch back onto the racetrack.
So another all or nothing move by Fernando Alonso, and it's cost him a place. Alonso drops down to 7th behind Kimi Raikkonen. We now ride on board with the reigning world champion. He's had a difficult weekend. He's not had the car underneath him at all. It's been oversteering, understeering all the way through practice and qualifying. He just hasn't been able to dial it in, and he really has to do a serious recovery drive here this afternoon to bag some sensible points, keep himself in the hunt with Hamilton and Massa. Look at the lead for Lewis Hamilton then as he clocks up the end of lap 4. It's 3.7 seconds over Felipe Massa. Heikki Kovalainen now 6 seconds behind. Kubica is 9 seconds behind the race leader. Trulli and now Raikkonen 11 seconds behind Hamilton.
Hamilton 1.4 seconds quicker than teammate Kovalainen in 3rd place. I mean, I don't think he's that light. He might be a lap or 2 lighter than Massa and Kovalainen, but he's absolutely flying. We're seeing some brilliant action. It's like a sort of a cross between a Formula Ford race and Formula 3, isn't it? All sorts of attacking, wild moves. It's a relatively simple racetrack, and it does generate the cars staying together quite well. So that, I think, is why we're seeing so many overtaking opportunities. 2 world champions then racing at the moment for 6th and 7th. Raikkonen and Alonso for Renault.
And just behind them is a tremendous battle going on between teammates for next year, Sebastian Vettel and Mark Webber. They'll be together at Red Bull in 2009. At the moment, Vettel is in the Toro Rosso, supposedly the B team of Red Bull, and he's he qualified in front of Webber, and Webber is right on his tail, scrapping for 8th and 9th places.
Yeah, so somewhere there Vettel got a better start, and it seems highly probable that the Ferrari engine in Vettel's equivalent or version of the Red Bull has got more power than the Renault, because that car looks 0.2 of a second faster, and it should be identical in many respects.
Hamilton, Massa, Kovalainen, Kubica the top 4. Then it's Trulli, Raikkonen, Alonso, Vettel, Webber, T.Glock 10th. Jenson Button is 13th. David Coulthard has managed to hold off Nico Rosberg at this stage and is right on Jenson Button's tail in a battle for 13th place. With Piquet not making too much progress at the moment in the Renault, down in 18th spot. So he lost a place off the start line, Nelson Piquet, and we'll watch his progress with great interest. Raikkonen now, homing in on the back of the Toyota of Jarno Trulli. Well, meanwhile at the front, Hamilton's just set a new fastest first sector of anybody. He's pushing hard in the opening stint here at Hockenheim. the German Grand Prix from Hockenheim, and two good friends are having a great battle. Jenson Button and David Coulthard, 13th and 14th in this Grand Prix. Neither of them really where they want to be. Coulthard qualified in the top 10, but has had a very poor start, and he's trying to fight his way back through. The Red Bull is definitely a faster car at this stage of the season than the Honda. Jenson's being defensive. They have collided with each other, of course, this season in Bahrain. Neither of them really need to do that again. Nico Rosberg is watching it all from behind. Meanwhile, at the front, Lewis Hamilton starting from pole position, now 6 seconds clear of Felipe Massa, and on that the previous lap he was a second faster than Massa, so Massa obviously had a bit of a slow lap there. He's trying to hold on to the McLaren driver, but at the moment it looks like he's just not finding the speed. Heikki Kovalainen is third for McLaren, fourth for BMW Sauber is Kubica, fifth for Toyota is Jarno Trulli, sixth for Ferrari is Kimi Raikkonen, is second behind Trulli. Then it's Alonso, Vettel, Webber and Glock, the top 10.
Well, Coulthard's car currently much faster at this phase of the Grand Prix. That's his buttons much wider. He's really placing the car well, as Jenson, knowing that he's under attack. He doesn't want to let David through at this stage. He's hoping that later on in the race he might still have track position. But quite a fight going on there. Three great drivers, Button, Coulthard and Rosberg. But as you say, James, 13th, 14th and 15th, there's fights all the way down the field.
I think this battle actually kind of sums up Formula One in 2008, doesn't it? Three great drivers in decent cars fighting for...
We need to try and get past him with Coulthard.
Fighting for 13th, 14th and 15th places. And the whole field is only separated by, I don't know, 1.6, 1.7 seconds. It's never been more competitive in Formula One. It's never been closer in terms of lap time between the front and the back. And this is the living embodiment of it.
Well, Lewis's tyres are obviously hanging in there extremely well. Every lap he's doing a new fastest first sector. I know it's not much of a sector in terms of it's really the 150 mile an hour turn 1 and bits of turn 2. But he's now done a new fastest middle sector as well. So Hamilton just getting faster and faster and faster, and that's going to be tight, DC, when you get there. Can you get on the throttle and close him down for the right hander? And Button then with the better drive off the outside of the corner. Now it's a little bit too far behind for a run at him, and a lot of oversteer turning in there for Jenson. Jenson struggling with that car, but it's fast enough to keep David behind him, and Hamilton then backing it into the corner beautifully. A 1:16.0 for a new fastest lap. The only person anywhere near that is Massa, 3/4 of a second per lap slower. Hamilton leads by 7 seconds.
He's reveling in the handling of this car. They've made a lot of changes, McLaren, over the last 4 weeks or so. Big changes going into the French Grand Prix that weren't that noticeable because of all the penalties that they had that weekend. Silverstone, you saw it in qualifying clearly, but in the race clearly it was wet, so we didn't get to see exactly what the race pace improvement was of this McLaren. Now we are beginning to see it. Hamilton, last year's car, he told you in that interview yesterday, he could chuck it about more. He's been restricted with this car, and in times he's been overdriving it really to try and squeeze more out of it. Now he's just got right in the sweet spot with it, hasn't he?
It can be massively tiring to keep driving a car like that, as we see Coulthard recovering out of the dirt on the final corner, because if a car's constantly sliding, you have to be driving every metre of the racetrack. But Lewis just seems comfortable doing it. Ted's got some further news.
Yeah, just looking at what's going on at Ferrari, and I mean, they just don't know what's going on really. We expected Kimi Raikkonen to pick up his pace, and that was going to be a story we were going to follow throughout the whole race, to see Kimi come through as the fuel burnt off. But we don't think he's considerably heavier than Massa. He's 6/10 a lap slower than his teammates, and the only hope they've got, Martin, is to use the soft tyres a bit later on in the race once the track has rubbered in. But everyone on the soft tyres now doesn't seem to be doing too badly, so a bit of head scratching at Raikkonen's garage.
Yeah, and funny enough, on that lap, as you were telling us that information, Raikkonen fell a further 2/10 behind Jarno Trulli in the Toyota, so he's not exactly all over his gearbox either. There is the picture, and it's Alonso hanging on to the back of Raikkonen.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you would look at it on the face of it and say Raikkonen's being held up by Trulli, but you can see for yourself at the moment it's not really the case. They are lapping in the low 1:17s. Hamilton is lapping in the low 1:16s, consistently 3/10 to half a second a lap faster than the Ferrari of Felipe Massa. But those two are the quick guys out there. Also in the 16s is Robert Kubica in 4th place, and he is closing in now on the back of Heikki Kovalainen.
Okay, Arno, we're doing well. We need 2 more seconds to Vettel. We need 2 more seconds to Vettel.
Well, the team have obviously got a computer model that tells them that Sebastian Vettel is someone they need to keep an eye out for. Currently, Jarno has just over 4 seconds advantage over Vettel, but they believe that he's going to go longer in the race, and they don't want to get held up behind him, clearly, after Jarno's first pit stop.
What was the word they used? 2 more what? Did you?
Seconds, I think.
Seconds. I thought he said sessions. Not Jeff up here, but... so that's who they think they're racing then. Clearly the Toyota's quite light, that would suggest, wouldn't it? And they need to, they think they're actually racing the Toro Rosso of P8 man Vettel at the moment, and that they're artificially therefore ahead of the Ferrari and the Renault.
Yeah, and also though, it's just simply a case you don't want to get held up by him after the first pit stop, because Vettel is clearly going to run a little bit longer. So I think Trulli feels he can do a bit better than that. He thinks he can probably finish in the top 5 or 6. But he does not want to get held up behind Vettel after his first pit stops, which we're expecting to come sometime in around 3 to 4 laps from now. Hamilton leading now by 8.5 seconds as Nico Rosberg has a little nibble at the Honda of Jenson Button, and that means that David Coulthard has squeezed past him, and Coulthard in the Red Bull up into 13th place, Button down to 14th, and possibly about to lose that place to Nico Rosberg, almost alongside each other. It's a defensive afternoon, really, for Jenson Button. Hamilton pulling away still at the front, though. 9 seconds the lead over Massa. Lap 16 of the German Grand Prix in Hockenheim. We're about halfway between 2 industrial powerhouse cities, Frankfurt to the north and Stuttgart to the south, the home of Mercedes-Benz. Their man Lewis Hamilton is leading the German Grand Prix. They haven't won here for 10 years now, McLaren and Mercedes. But Lewis Hamilton took pole position yesterday, and he's driving away from Felipe Massa at the moment. The margin is now 9.7 seconds, and that last lap through, Massa was just a couple of tenths slower than Hamilton, which is about the closest he's been to him throughout the race. Heikki Kovalainen is 3rd for McLaren, being closed in on gradually by Robert Kubica, but there's only a 10th in it, lap by lap either way. Jarno Trulli holding on in 5th, in the Toyota, 4.3 seconds behind. Raikkonen is 6th, 7th Alonso, 8th Vettel, 9th Webber, and 10th Glock. You're riding on board with Nico Rosberg, who's chasing down Jenson Button. David Coulthard has squeezed past Jenson Button. They were battling quite a few laps as we look at a lock-up. Not an uncommon sight with Lewis Hamilton, just a gentle lock-up, a little puff of smoke.
Here's a replay of Coulthard passing Button. There's a blinding move from 50 metres back. Jenson hanging on the outside of the corner. And here we see it again. DC decided he'd had enough of that. He's already dropped Button now by over 5 seconds since that move. And I was quite impressed by that from a man who's announced he's retiring. That was a good one from a long way back. And Jenson did very well to see it coming.
So let's take a look at Hamilton then at the front. We talked at the beginning about the newfound poise of Lewis Hamilton. It is a process as Nakajima spins from 17th place. It's a process that all great drivers have to go through. They arrive in Formula One with tremendous speed, and it's a question then of whether they improve themselves as drivers. Some do, some don't. It's very early days for Hamilton to decide how good he's actually going to be, but clearly part of the process is in learning when to rein yourself in. Senna had to go through it, and so did Schumacher and all the others, and whether Hamilton belongs in that class, only time will tell.
Ambition ahead of adhesion there for Nakajima. He's facing the wrong direction, spins it around, off he goes for 17th, as you say. 20 starters and 20 runners at the moment, despite the excellent wheel-to-wheel action. Lewis Hamilton is halfway around lap 18. He's leading by 11 seconds. He's waltzing away at the front of this field, and he looks like he's just enjoying a nice day out in a McLaren.
We hear that McLaren are getting ready for one of their drivers, expected to be Lewis Hamilton. But even if he is a lap or two lighter than Massa as he dives into the pit lane, it doesn't explain an 11-second lead after 18 racing laps.
There's the line then, he's just crossed for 50 miles an hour, 80 kilometres per hour. There's his...
Let's have a listen. Wheel guns go to work. Gear engaged. Long middle stint for Hamilton. So a short first stint, long middle stint. That's the plan for McLaren with Hamilton. Where will he feed back in? There is Jarno Trulli. Get up to speed quickly, and he is in front of Jarno Trulli, and critically, of course, in front of Kimi Raikkonen. Also in this lap, Robert Kubica in the BMW from 4th. Oh, hang on, Trulli's in front of him. Hamilton's obviously had a moment somewhere.
Lewis just got a little bit hot into turn 2 there, out of the pit lane, and now feels he needs to come straight back at the Toyota. But that's a brave move with a tank of fuel, and the tyres will be plenty hot enough for Lewis, but presumably somewhere in there he went a little bit wide and gave Trulli a run at him.
Yeah, he's got a heavy car at the moment. He's determined to get past. Trulli has got to pit fairly soon himself, because he got himself up the front of the grid. Everyone thought he was quite light, so wouldn't be surprised if Trulli's not coming in maybe this lap or the lap after. But Hamilton is not about to wait around and find out. He wants to get on with this. He can't afford to lose too much time to Massa. We're told that Toyota are in the pit lane for Trulli. I'm sure that McLaren have told Hamilton that. They told him not to take any unnecessary risks, but he was about to, wasn't he?
Yes, we said, do you have to keep talking to yourself in the car to keep your head like you do? He said, yes, I do. I'm always talking to myself. Well, he needed it right then. He was about to pick a fight with the wrong person, and he didn't need to fight, and he now sees that for himself, because the Toyota is pitted, as does Alonso in the Renault.
Jarno Trulli, another storming weekend for him like the one he had in Magny-Cours. Remember, he's racing against Alonso and he wants to get out. Trulli, we heard that from his radio man, in front of Sebastian Vettel. Is that Vettel going through there? I think it might have been. So I'm not sure that Jarno was able to find those seconds his engineer was calling for, but he's still in front of his old teammate Alonso in the Renault, so he'll be pleased with that. But that was quite a moment then for Lewis Hamilton. We haven't seen why, but clearly he had maybe a little lock-up going into the hairpin on his new tyres, and that allowed Trulli to squeeze through. So a little scare there for Hamilton early in this race. On board with Kimi Raikkonen as Ferrari get ready for Felipe Massa. Ted Kravitz is there.
Okay, let's take a look at what Massa's going to do. This will be Ferrari's only hope to pick up the win, but it seems very unlikely. Right, on go the soft tyres. Okay, so this is what Ferrari are going to do then. They can go longer on the soft tyres than McLaren was. Significant, wasn't it, James, that Lewis put another set of the harder tyres on at that second stop. That means they'll have to go to the soft, their unfavoured car for the last stint. But decent stop for Massa there, but looks like just a slightly shorter middle stint.
Yeah, shorter middle stint for Massa on the softer tyre, so Hamilton will go longer in this middle part of the Grand Prix on the harder tyre, and that'll mean his final stint will be the short one on the soft tyre. So they feel that the track is clearly going to rubber in enough that will help them not to chew up those soft tyres when eventually they put them on in the final part of the Grand Prix.
Must be very satisfying for Lewis Hamilton though. He's made his pit stop, and in his mirrors Kimi Raikkonen, a second behind, who's yet to make his pit stop. So that's how far ahead he is of one of his main championship rivals.
Okay, Alonso stopped together with you, and now he's behind you. Check if he has more fuel than me. Okay, we don't have the info yet.
He's asking how much fuel did he take on board, how far will he go in this stage of the Grand Prix, and it's quite critical. Kovalainen pits then. He dropped off the board there for a while as his car sensor wasn't registering as he came past the pit. A tweak of front wing, hard tyres going on that McLaren too, and away he goes.
80 kilometres an hour down the pit lane before he releases the pit lane speed limiter and gets back out onto the racetrack. Where will he rejoin? Between T.Glock and Nick Heidfeld. So he comes out in 8th place.
Yeah, so that'd be interesting to see how Trulli, not that it really matters now I guess, but how Trulli ended up in front of Lewis Hamilton. So
here's Heidfeld attacking the freshly fueled and freshly tired Kovalainen. Kovalainen goes defensive into the hairpin, gives him a little nudge, and out he goes. Clearly the cars are a little vulnerable then to the lighter car coming out of the pit lane. That's what happened with Trulli and Hamilton. We didn't see whether he locked up into that hairpin. I fancy he probably did. I think that's what must have happened with Lewis Hamilton, because he came out in front of Trulli, no question about that.
Yeah, when the momentum's with you, you can afford to move over and nerf the other driver. You've got to make sure you do it wheel to wheel, though, so you don't lose any critical aerodynamic parts as Raikkonen pits from what is currently third place in the Ferrari. He has not found a new way with this car during the Grand Prix. He is struggling for pace.
They're going for the same tactic as they did with Massa. Soft tyres going on again. Similar amount of fuel going into Raikkonen's car, but he's not at the races today, Kimi Raikkonen. Hasn't been, frankly, all weekend. Just not able to dial this Ferrari into the racetrack. It's such a critical part of the driver's game, isn't it, getting the setup right? What do you think's gone wrong this weekend for Kimi?
I don't know, it seems to me that the car's obviously quite a knife-edge car to set up, and you can be on the sweet spot but fall slightly either side of it, and they lose the balance, and it seems to be more critical to Kimi's driving style than maybe Felipe Massa's. So is it his relationship with his engineer? Is he not understanding quite enough about the car? Have McLaren just kept developing their car better? And I'd have to say yes is the answer to that. And does that mean Ferrari are starting to go and look for performance in places where they don't have any extra performance? So at the moment, Raikkonen a little bit at sea.
Unsettling times definitely for Ferrari. This is the first real illustration of what kind of race pace McLaren have. We didn't get it in France, we didn't get it in Silverstone for various reasons, but now we're getting it, and the picture is quite different from what we had in the first half of the season. As we take a look at Heidfeld battling with Kovalainen, that was from a lap or so before. Jarno Trulli, as we see David Coulthard getting a little wide there in the Red Bull. Jarno Trulli is in front of Sebastian Vettel, who has yet to make a stop. Fernando Alonso is behind Vettel, and Hamilton has now an 8.5 second lead over Felipe Massa. So by coming in a lap earlier, he only lost 1.5 seconds to the Ferrari driver. Webber just pitted from what was third place. Let's see where that brings him out. Just behind Fernando Alonso is the answer.
Well, that worked quite well for him then.
Worked very well for him. Staying out a bit longer. There's Rosberg. As we take a look down at the Toro Rosso of Sebastian Vettel, being cheered on by many fans here. One of 5 German drivers in the field, and very much the most local of them. Grew up just a short distance from here, has raced on this racetrack in all kinds of Formula of car, knows his way around here. Absolutely stellar yesterday in qualifying in the Ferrari-powered Toro Rosso car. Meanwhile, Alonso a little bit tyre limited in this Renault. One of their Achilles heels this year has been that they do chew up the rear tyres a little bit. He's gambled on the soft tyres for the middle stint of the race, and clearly wants to get past Vettel as soon as possible. Hamilton leading Massa now by just under 9 seconds. T.Glock yet to make a stop, is third. Kovalainen is fourth. Heidfeld fifth, Kubica sixth, Raikkonen seventh, and Jarno Trulli eighth. Have to be a little bit careful with the timing screens and the graphics today. They're having a few problems, I think. We've seen some rather misleading signs coming off the timing computer in the last few minutes, so to tread our way carefully through this one, because the picture is not always what it seems. But definitely at the moment, Hamilton 8.9 clear of Massa, as we ride on board with the two-time world champion.
Well, it does suggest, doesn't it, that Lewis went wide in turn 2, and losing that time behind Jarno Trulli. He's gone from 11 seconds ahead to 8.9 ahead. So Lewis crosses the line, followed by Massa in second place then, who is now 9.4. So Hamilton beginning to re-establish that lead. Glock is third for Toyota, he hasn't pitted yet. Then Kovalainen, who has pitted, followed by Heidfeld, yet to pit. And then Kubica, who's pitted. Raikkonen, quite a bit behind. Kubica now, and Jarno Trulli has lost out in the pit stop. He's down to 8th with Vettel and Alonso chasing. Vettel 9th, Alonso 10, Webber 11. Button is 12th but hasn't stopped.
So Hamilton picking up where he left off before the first round of pit stops, and again extending his lead over Felipe Massa. 9.4 seconds the margin. Glock yet to stop. And as we take a look at Nico Rosberg, this is what they call a super slow-mo camera. They're very proud of them here in Germany. And gives you an idea of what a Formula One car looks like, how much it flexes. Here is Nick Heidfeld, currently lying in 5th place. And we're not yet at the halfway stage here in Hockenheim. Lap 29 of the German Grand Prix, and one of the 5 German drivers in the field, T.Glock, one of the least experienced in Formula One terms, is currently in 3rd place. He qualified outside the top 10, could opt for whatever fuel load he wanted on race day. He's obviously running long into this race. This is 29 laps into a 67-lap Grand Prix. He's almost into one-stop territory. And he is running 3rd at the moment, but the story at the front is that Lewis Hamilton pulled away in the first stint from Felipe Massa, and he's pulling away from him in the second stint as well. It's McLaren Ferrari at the front. Glock is going to make a stop before too long. Kovalainen will then move back up into 3rd place. Robert Kubica is keeping Kovalainen honest, although he has lost out a little bit through the first round of pit stops, and he's dropped to 6.7 seconds behind, so he's lost a couple of seconds to Kovalainen. Raikkonen is 2.8 seconds behind Robert Kubica, but he has leapfrogged Jarno Trulli through the first round of pit stops, so that's good news for Raikkonen, who has had a difficult weekend so far. Got off to a bad start in 7th place, managed to get past Trulli, as I say, in the pit stops. Trulli's got Vettel behind him, and then Alonso in 9th, Mark Webber in 10th. A very intense scrap for all the points positions here this afternoon. All 20 runners still going as Glock pits.
He was up to 3rd in the Toyota. Let's look at the relative times. Hamilton 7, 1 minute 17.3. Massa 1 minute 17.2 on that lap. The lead now down to 10.4 seconds. And Kovalainen all but matching them. Can he begin to ease back towards Felipe Massa? And Glock feeds back in there with Sebastian Bourdais and Nelson Piquet too. Piquet yet to stop for Renault, not having a particularly fast afternoon. So this is for position then. The drag race down to turn 6, the hairpin, and Bourdais going, taking the high line and then going defensive. That's really good stuff.
Back onto the track comes Timo Glock, racing against, I think it's Sebastian Vettel, with Alonso tucked up behind him as well. So Glock has made up a lot of ground by staying out long on that first stint in the Toyota. Qualified in 11th place, and an impressive opening part of the Grand Prix for Timo Glock.
Yeah, he was doing 1:17.0s while the leaders with their full tank of fuel were mid 1 minute 17, so that's what's made the difference.
Yeah, well, on home soil, he's obviously feeling inspired. His only points finish so far this season, Glock, was in Montreal, where he finished 4th on that crazy day, so heavily affected by safety cars. And well, he went long in his first stint on that race, and it paid dividends. Looks like the same tactic is working for him here today as well.
Yeah, you're right, James. That's put him ahead. That run has put him ahead of Alonso and Webber. Heidfeld, and he's only now 1 place behind teammate Trulli. He's actually 4 seconds behind Trulli. So quietly, Glock has been out there a long time, putting in some very fast laps.
He's one of those hard drivers to quantify, isn't he? He's sort of anonymous for large periods of time, and then every now and then just completely catches your attention, and he's on a big run here.
And of course, there's a big fight between Toyota and Red Bull for 4th in the World Championship. So they'll be very pleased at the moment to have both Toyotas ahead of both Red Bulls.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Toyota fourth currently on 25 points. Red Bull a point behind in fifth, and a tremendous scrap. A lot of money at stake for finishing fourth or fifth in the World Championship. And let's get a little bit more news from Ted Kravitz.
Yeah, just exactly on that point. And T.Glock has jumped into the ring in this Toyota Red Bull battle today, which I'm following between Jarno Trulli and Fernando Alonso getting in there as well, and Mark Webber. But down here in the Red Bull garage, actually they're feeling quite confident. They reckon they're going to go longer. They can now go longer than Jarno Trulli. So you know what Webber's like with scoring these 6th, 7th places and the points that go with it. They fancy a bit of that today.
Well, he's 6 seconds behind him at the moment, but crucially, Trulli's in 6th place and Webber's in 10th. So in terms of track position, you'd have to say that Trulli is in the pound seats, and there's a lot of work that Webber's got to do, that a lot of it's beyond his control because of the cars between him and Jarno Trulli. Still a very intense scrap. At the front though, Hamilton 11.1 seconds clear of Massa, who's desperately clinging on to Lewis, but Kovalainen is 7 seconds behind in the McLaren, and then Kubic's about 7 seconds behind him in the BMW, but the margins are really starting to stretch out beyond that. Jarno Trulli in 6th place, over half a minute behind Hamilton after just 32 racing laps.
So the only man not to stop, Nelson Piquet, 12th for Renault at the moment. Obviously started the race with a very heavy car indeed. We're on board with his teammate Alonso. 2 Hondas side by side. It's Barrichello up the inside to take position there, or keep position from Button. Barrichello's just rejoined after his pit stop, so he's rejoined in front of his teammate, who's clearly not happy about it.
Well, these are probably the 2 most closely matched teammates in Formula One, both enormously experienced. Of course, Rubens Barrichello is the most experienced driver in the history of Formula One, and as things stand in the championship, there's nothing much to choose between them, which a bit of a surprise to some people. They thought that Jensen would edge it over Rubens. What's your read on the Honda situation?
Well, I think Rubens has done a very good job. Jensen is driving nicely, but and that's quite clearly how Rubens did it. He had a better run out of turn 2, got what will turn out to be the inside line down at the hairpin. But I have to say, if Jensen wants to end up in a McLaren or a Ferrari and win a World Championship, he's going to have to go better than he is at the moment, and he really should have clear air between him and Rubens Barrichello.
Yeah, well, Jensen was passed by Rosberg in the round of pit stops. We were interested to see what would happen there. Rosberg pitting very late, and he has got in front of Jensen Button. So Rosberg up into 15th place.
Come on, Fernando, we need to do something to get past these guys. Come on, mate.
Not often that Fernando Alonso needs encouragement. One of the most relentless, aggressive and committed drivers. I'm sure he's doing everything that this car is capable of, particularly at the moment with Ferrari having a little bit of a wobble of confidence and just looking at their drivers and wondering why they aren't getting more out of the car. It's the kind of situation that Alonso loves. He can force his way in there. That's what he wants, a Ferrari seat for the future. And if they're questioning their drivers, this is the moment to deliver.
Well, Pat Simmons said to Louise, didn't he, in the early part of our show, well, we're starting 5th, we'd like to think we can finish 5th. Right now they're P9 and not going anywhere fast, so it's not been a great first half of the race for Alonso and Renault.
Meanwhile, teammate Piquet, who started at the back of the grid, 17th he qualified, dropped down to 18th on the opening lap. He has managed to pick his way up to 12th, but he's yet to make his first stop of the afternoon. So he's clearly going to do a one-stop race here this afternoon. This is lap 35, half distance already passed, and Piquet yet to make a stop.
The 3 laps shorter than you. Should be 3 laps shorter than you.
So that's the information Vettel has got, that the man in front of him will pit 3 laps earlier. They of course time each other's fuel rigs and they know the flow rate, so they think they know exactly when he's coming in, and that means get as close as you can to him, and then when he pits, get the hammer down and you'll pass him during the next pit stop phase. It's a 2-stop race for virtually all of the runners, excepting Piquet, who's now lapping on his one-stop strategy, clearly getting quite low on fuel, but now lapping at the same pace as the leaders.
Yeah, it's been a strange weekend for Piquet, very quick in all through practice, and should be certainly the top half of the field as Nakajima has another moment in what is a rather scruffy afternoon for the Japanese driver. As we ride on board with Hamilton, let's see how things are going with the race leader.
He was 11.4 seconds ahead last time around. He moves into lap 36. This is the very good turn 150 miles an hour, arrive and drive. Traffic ahead. He should be seeing some blue flags to help him ease through this traffic as the leader. And it's 11.7 now, the advantage over Massa. Kovalainen just beginning to edge back at Massa, and the traffic should stay right and give Lewis the racing line. Bang, 90 metres before the corner, and down 6 gear shifts, and just pick up the throttle through the exit. These cars change gear 50 times faster than you can blink your eye, so it's just an instinct.
Oh, big crash!
Glock,
it's one of the
it?
Toyotas, yeah, I think it's T.Glock. Big moment. We were just praising him for his early first stint, and that may well bring out a safety car. We've got a lot of debris on the start-finish line. Felipe Massa 11.5 seconds behind Hamilton, and we may well be facing a safety car here.
He's obviously dropped it off the grass through the exit. No, right rear suspension failure on the curb, and gearbox is hard into the wall. There's a lot of energy there. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Glock is quite dazed by that. Safety car is out. A lot of debris on the track, a lot of danger for the other drivers. There is a crash structure on the back of the gearbox designed for exactly that kind of incident, and that hopefully will have taken some of the pain out of it for Timo Glock, who just can't quite see him out of the window here, is beginning to get out of the car underneath our commentary position. The steering wheel's coming off, and they're attending to Glock now.
Stroke of luck for Jenson Button, who just made his pit stop. Same for Nelson Piquet. If that had happened a lap later, they'd have been in big trouble. They wouldn't be able to come into the pit lane to make their stops. As it is, they're both still going. Bernd Mailander is controlling the safety car at the front. It's good news for Felipe Massa, who's seen an enormous gap to Hamilton reduced to nothing as we go into the second half of this Grand Prix.
All the teams are ready to pit. All the teams are ready to pit. So it will be quite busy. Ferrari, Renault, Williams, McLaren, Toyota, Red Bull.
So all the teams are ready to pit. We're under a safety car here. It's lap 38 of the German Grand Prix from Hockenheim. Timo Glock has had a right rear suspension failure, a heavy accident on the start-finish straight. Most of the debris has been cleared away. The safety car is out, but looks like most of the teams are going to bring their drivers in. So which drivers will they bring in is the question. We are into the window for the final pit stop for fuel stops, and it'd be very interesting to see what Hamilton does. He's had the upper hand all afternoon over Ferrari's Felipe Massa, an 11-second lead he had before the safety car was brought out, and tactically absolutely vital now for all the teams to get it right. In comes Massa. Hamilton does not appear to be coming in.
Hamilton's gone past. That's unusual. He'll lose, unless he's going to run further into the Grand Prix, much further into the Grand Prix. He now loses position in the snake behind the safety car. I'm amazed that the Ferraris have queued. That's not a major drama, except they'll lose track position for Raikkonen. And a lot of angle there. Raikkonen needed to, Kovalainen needed to get out of his pit garage there. It's chaos. Nobody is allowed to hold anybody else up in these circumstances to buy themselves some space. And the Renault there of Piquet being pushed across the white line, and sorry, that was Alonso, it looks like now, and surely Webber's engine looking more than a little sick on the right bank of that V8 Renault.
Yeah, got a little bit cooked, I think, coming into the pits, and well, there's a lot of oil smoke coming out the back. He's obviously got the message now. He pulls over to the right-hand side. But why have McLaren not brought Hamilton in? That's the big question. It would be a brave man who would try and read the order in this race at this point, with everybody having come in, some people having come in, others not. Michael Schumacher, 7 times world champion, still a consultant to Ferrari, is watching on. Let's get some news from Ted Kravitz.
Well, yes, I mean, they were ready for Heikki Kovalainen. Ferrari had to bring Massa and Raikkonen in. This is Ferrari's only chance of getting anywhere near winning the race. But McLaren's thinking is that they can actually make it, and Lewis has the pace to edge out enough of a gap. We're not expecting, Glock's car is just being removed now, so we're not expecting this safety car period to last very long. We know Lewis is on a long middle stint, so they're hoping, and they better hope, really, because it's their only chance of winning McLaren, that Lewis will be able to build up that gap, enough of a gap to Massa. But yeah, interesting decision, to say the least.
Okay, Vettel pushed me off the right line of the pit lane. I was in the fast lane. He need to give me the place back.
Okay, understood.
That's Alonso complaining that Vettel pushed him coming out of the pit lane. We certainly saw it. The safety car is still out. It's completing another lap. Bearing in mind as we see the smoke still coming out of Mark Webber's car. Bear in mind, of course, Hamilton is saving fuel behind this safety car. He can go a few laps longer, but I tell you what they're thinking really is probably he doesn't want to go onto the soft tyre and have to do 28 laps on the soft tyre. That's the problem. He's tyre limited, and that's why he needs to stay out and have to rebuild that gap.
Yeah, he's going to have to really push like crazy though, isn't he? Lap cars may now overtake, theoretically, although they don't absolutely have to. They've got to wait for those lap cars to catch the pack up before they restart the race. So that means that Massa, who has made his stop, will just be a few cars. You can see it's 3 cars behind Lewis Hamilton, who's got to make another stop. Louise.
Yeah, I'm just walking with Riccardo Ciccarelli, the Toyota team doctor. You're heading to the medical centre. From what you saw of that accident, do you think the teammate's going to be okay?
I hope so, but we have no news, so we go to check.
So you didn't get any information through from the authorities and the stewards?
No.
All right, thanks, Riccardo. We'll wait to get the news from you later. Thanks.
There's the crash then. The right rear suspension fails. He goes into the wall very heavily indeed. He's still pressing the throttle and turning the steering wheel, so he's conscious. I suspect he's heavily winded. Occasionally, you do get some stress fractures in your spine with those kind of accidents. Not much padding in the back of the seats, although there is a special V-shaped crash structure on the back of the gearbox which helps dramatically in those situations, as does the integrity of the rear wing, as does the rear tyre and suspension to help absorb the energy. But I'm pretty sure that Glock will be winded and possibly some small damage in his back, hopefully.
I think Hamilton will want this safety car to come in fairly soon. Still lots of smoke coming out of the back of Webber's car. Now, the lights are still on the safety car. All the debris is well and truly cleared, and it doesn't say safety car will be deployed. I guess they're still waiting for the lap cars to unlap themselves. But well, the longer this goes on for, the worse it is for Hamilton, because he wants to get on with it. He's got 4 cars between himself and is it 4? 1, 2, 3 cars between himself and Felipe Massa, and he needs to build a big enough cushion in the time before his next pit stop in order to be able to pit and rejoin in front of Felipe Massa. Now, we think he's going to go probably about another 6 or 7 laps beyond here, and that's going to be quite a big ask to pull out enough time, which is going to be about 22 seconds.
Nelson, you're in P3, and like I said, you need to be ready to push when you get going. Remember, brake and tyre temps.
Well, it worked well for Piquet on his one stopper. The safety car couldn't have come at a better time for him. But I can't help but feel that Hamilton is in a very poor position here. He's got to make up so much ground on Massa before he pits. And will he have enough time to do it, as you say? And I think well, surely this means it's guaranteed that for Lewis to win the race, at some point he's going to have to overtake Felipe Massa this afternoon.
Well, depending on how long he can go before that pit stop and how much the likes of Heidfeld and Piquet hold up Felipe Massa in the early stages once we get the restart. Still plenty of smoke coming out of that Red Bull. A safety car is coming in this lap. Boy, are we going to see something then. Hamilton was pushing in the opening stint. That's nothing compared to what he's going to have to do now.
Webber, I noticed, flicked across to just in front of his pit wall. I guess they want to see if he's actually dropping oil. He's blowing out smoke, but he's not anymore, is he? He's out of the race. So Webber then with what appeared to be engine failure. You have to be careful on that, because there are all sorts of hydraulic pumps and lines that can give out blue smoke that just trails out through the aerodynamics and looks like an engine failure. But anyway, whatever it is, Webber's going no further.
So we're ready for the restart here in Hockenheim. 27 laps to go to the finish. Hamilton puts the hammer down. He's got the Honda behind him. Look, already he's pulling out a big margin over Felipe Massa as they go across the start-finish line. What's the gap? He's got 2.5 seconds on him already, just at the restart. He needs to build a lead around about 22 to 23 seconds before he makes his stop. That is the target for Lewis Hamilton, as Alonso and Vettel, who are having an increasingly bitter row here over 8th and 9th places. Alonso, remember, complaining about Vettel pushing him off the racing line onto the track on the way out of the pit lane.
Raikkonen's a long way back in the second Ferrari. The safety car situation didn't help him. He's having a continued miserable afternoon. The Honda then gets out of the way because it's about to be re-lapped effectively then. I wonder why that didn't go through earlier on. But there's Raikkonen in the Ferrari with Rosberg behind him now for Williams. Good fight here then. Alonso's front tyres will vibrate horribly now to the end of the race after that huge lockup going into turn 2.
So let's take a look at this situation. Hamilton leading Heidfeld by 1.6 seconds. Piquet is third for Renault, and he's one stopping here this afternoon. So he's a factor. He's actually there in position, I believe. I think he can go to the finish in that Renault. Fourth is Felipe Massa, who's also fueled to the finish. Kubica fifth, Kovalainen sixth. They've both stopped twice, so they're going to have to pass each other on the racetrack to improve their situation. Seventh is Vettel, eighth Alonso.
Well, Hamilton then 4.4 seconds ahead of Massa at the end of that first lap after the restart. And this is Alonso still having to look down the outside of Sebastian Vettel. This is for 8th and 9th, the final World Championship points at the moment. But Hamilton, Heidfeld have both got to pit again up front. They're first and second at the moment. Piquet in third doesn't have to. And as you say, James, looking very good. But Vettel always forcing Alonso to the outside and just giving him no space at all. Now he's shoved him onto the shiny paint of the advertising. Kovalainen behind Kubica.
Good battle for position here, 5th place. Kovalainen gets pushed out, but he manages to squeeze through. Aggressive driving there, but fair from Heikki Kovalainen up into 5th place. Fantastic move by him. Nick Heidfeld in 2nd place in the BMW does have to stop again. He's only made one pit stop here this afternoon. He made it on lap 27, and he put 8 seconds of fuel in the car, so that'll be a sinking feeling for him. But Piquet is in the pound seats. Let's take another look at this.
This is a great piece of driving by Kovalainen. He really had no space on the outside there, and he surprised Kubica enough for Kubica to light the rear tyres up, and another angle of that. Just kept it there. Knew that it's a right-hander next. Kubica gets the rear end moving around, has to get out of the throttle, and that's all Kovalainen needed. Great driving. Alonso and Vettel then still going at it, with Raikkonen keeping a close watch and fancying joining the action. Now he's got a good run on Alonso down to the turn 6 hairpin. How badly does Alonso need to keep this position? We're about to find out. Surely he'll just send it up the inside of the Ferrari. There it goes. He's got to be careful he doesn't run into Vettel though, and it compromised him badly. Job done for Raikkonen.
I have a feeling Alonso's going to have some strong words as Rosberg now attacks Alonso. Alonso's going to have some strong words for Vettel at the end of this. He's not happy with him for blocking him on the way out of the pit lane. And what a tremendous scrap he's having. He's lost 2 places now then to Raikkonen and Rosberg. So Alonso slips down to 11th place.
Rosberg all over the racetrack to keep Alonso behind him. Alonso will be fiery inside that car. He wanted the place from Vettel, and now he's lost out to Raikkonen and Rosberg instead.
So how's Hamilton doing in his quest to retain the lead here? After 3 laps, he is now 7.9 seconds clear of Massa. So he's gaining just under 2 seconds a lap over him. Just on that last lap, it's just under 2 seconds. The first 2 were pretty good for him. He needs to push quite hard. Here's Raikkonen having a go at Vettel. The safety car has certainly reinvigorated this Grand Prix. This is for a final points-paying position, remember. Vettel currently in 8th. And Raikkonen runs one up the outside of him on the run down to the hairpin.
Red Bull, Toro Rosso Ferrari versus Ferrari, and Raikkonen has it. Incredible straight line speed there from the Works Ferrari car, and he takes another position. What's key here for me is, can Massa get past Nelson Piquet? Alonso having a run down the outside of Vettel. That's the replay that really the one that didn't work, and this is where Raikkonen had the run at Alonso. Alonso will fight him back down into the hairpin, and but goes in so deep He nearly runs into the back of Vettel, who's actually quite cautious in there, has to get out of it, and that's then where he lost out to Rosberg too. Here it goes.
So the question is, can Massa get past Piquet before Kovalainen catches him? Because clearly Kovalainen's target, as Briatore doesn't really like that very much, the boss of Renault. We're riding on board with Raikkonen. Clearly Kovalainen's mission is to get in amongst Massa before the run to the finish, as Raikkonen nonchalantly waves to Vettel. Ted.
Yeah, James, and the other question is, why didn't McLaren just play super safe and pit Lewis under the safety car? To that end, I've asked some of the guys down here in the McLaren garage. The response I got, he's got plenty of fuel on, really plenty of fuel on, so he didn't seem the need to. So, I mean, that means he must be able to go well into the lap 50s, maybe even 55, and he would have saved a bit of fuel under the safety car. Perhaps they're also thinking that Massa would have got held up by Piquet because his pace hasn't been brilliant in the first half of the race, but that's a big risk.
Well, it isn't, because I just don't think he wants to do a long stint on the soft tyres. You know, the McLaren does chew them up more. That's almost a bigger risk by running too long on the softer tyre. Clearly, Lewis was on for a long middle stint here in the Grand Prix, and they felt they had it all under control, and they've been proved right so far. The gap is 9.4 seconds, so he's almost halfway to his target now, Lewis Hamilton, after just 5 racing laps following the safety car. Alonso, meanwhile, is having a real go at Nico Rosberg in 10th place.
Well, what'll save Lewis's bacon here is that if Massa continues to be behind Piquet, who's one stopping and got a very heavy car, then he's going to be able to get most of that gap. Heidfeld's got to stop again as well, who's currently P2 and doing a very solid job, just a 10th of a second a lap. And that's the critical story for me as to whether Hamilton will beat Massa this afternoon, as to how quickly he can clear that Renault, because Massa's now 10.8 seconds behind Hamilton.
Yeah, he doesn't really look as though he's trying to pass Piquet at the moment either, does he? We've seen plenty of overtaking here this afternoon. We know that Piquet's car is heavy because he's fueled to the finish. Massa as well, he also is fueled to the finish. P1 Lewis, that's the story at the moment. The clouds gather. Hopefully they won't play a part in this story. It's the race to build up a big enough lead for Hamilton. He seems to have things under control. We'll find out whether he does when we come back. Laps to go in the German Grand Prix from Hockenheim, where we've just seen Rubens Barrichello making contact with David Coulthard. They were battling over 13th and 14th places. Barrichello's lost his nose.
Yeah, Coulthard's just taken the position, and Barrichello was still at the inside of him. Difficult to read without seeing the earlier phase of that, really. And there it is. So Coulthard's gone around the outside, doesn't realise clearly that Barrichello's cut back on him. Up the inside, Barrichello with a lot of damage. Coulthard regained the racetrack, and now looks like he might have some damage as well.
So Barrichello pits, two most experienced men in Formula One colliding there. Story of this race so far, Hamilton from pole position with Massa, Kovalainen. Hamilton pulled away. We had a safety car, and Ted Kravitz, tell us about Hamilton's pit stop.
Yeah, they're out for Lewis. Is it enough? What's the gap now, James? About 15 seconds.
It's not enough.
It's not enough. It is not enough. Lewis is going to have to pass Felipe Massa on the racetrack. Okay, so the gamble did not pay off. There go the soft tyres. Let's hope they hang on for as long as he needs to. We're going to have some overtaking, boys.
Well, let's hope we have some overtaking. He's going to rejoin right next to his teammate Kovalainen, who I imagine will not fight too hard for that position, or maybe he will. I don't know, but it's not worked out at all for Hamilton. The extraordinary decision then on the part of McLaren. The only way you would not have pitted him would be if you were absolutely comfortable that you could build the cushion. He'd done really well. He built 15.7 seconds gap over Massa, but he ran out of laps to do it. And now that means that at the moment, Heidfeld's leading, but he has to stop again. Piquet is second, and he does not have to stop again. Then it's Massa, and Hamilton's got a lot of work to do. A certain victory would appear to have been snatched away from him.
Yes, if Hamilton wants to win this race, he's got to pass Kovalainen. He's got to pass Massa and Piquet. Piquet could well end up leading this race, surely, from a dismal one-stopper. pace earlier on that the safety car played beautifully into. But will Kovalainen yield to the clearly faster Hamilton this afternoon and let him get on with it? Because it's quite a critical phase now, especially with those new soft tyres. He doesn't want to be sliding around in the slipstream of his teammate, graining up those tyres. He needs these early critical laps. Will McLaren do anything about this? Can they do anything about it? Will Kovalainen yield?
Well, we talked about it all about being poised and measured. You've got to drive these soft tyres quite cautiously for the first couple of laps to stop you from graining. Following other cars also makes them grain as well, apparently. So Hamilton needs to get on with it, but at the same time he needs to make sure he doesn't take too much out of the tyres. We'll be asking a lot of questions, I think, at the end, as you can see Ron Dennis there, the boss of McLaren, about the tactical nous of McLaren in Silverstone as he dives down the inside of Kovalainen shortly after Ron Dennis making some sort of communication there on the pit wall. Didn't seem to put up too much of a fight there, Kovalainen. But in Silverstone, Ferrari got it all wrong. They put the wrong tyres, or didn't change the tyres on Raikkonen the first pit stop, and it cost him massively. Here it would appear that not pitting Hamilton under the safety car has cost him massively.
Right, so it was the only sensible thing to do. Lewis has been 3/4 of a second faster than Heikki most of the afternoon, and there'll be coded words or there'll just be common sense involved in let Lewis through. Heikki may have done it for him, may have worked it all out for himself. Heidfeld does a new fastest lap of the race on lap 52, leading the Grand Prix. We believe he has to stop again. Piquet's 13.4 seconds behind him, doesn't have to stop again. So Hamilton then has got to catch Massa, who's 4 seconds up the road, and then Piquet, who's a further 2 seconds up the road.
Bit of a slow burner this Grand Prix. Slow to start, but it's going to be an extraordinary finish. 15 laps to go. Heidfeld leads, Piquet is second, Massa is third, Hamilton fourth, Kovalainen fifth, as we take another look at Hamilton just squeezing up the inside of his teammate.
Well, clearly synchronised swimming going on there between the two McLarens. It's the obvious thing to do, and Kovalainen getting to the outside. It wasn't quite clearly. Lewis wasn't expecting it, was he? Because he was following him in. Alonso still fighting away. What's going to happen down here?
This is Heidfeld, who was our leader, didn't pit under the safety car, same as Hamilton. Mario Tyson there, the boss of BMW. Where's this going to bring him back out? I think it'll bring him out in front of Kubica, his teammate. Let's wait and see. Might even bring him out in front of Kovalainen. Very, very short stop. Nelson Piquet then, in his first season in Formula One, leads.
And Hamilton's through, so Heidfeld was 6.4 behind Hamilton.
He is in front of Kovalainen.
Yes, and he's kept himself in front of Kovalainen as Hamilton locks a tyre down into turn 2. So that worked out okay for Nick Heidfeld. But hindsight's a wonderful thing, but I couldn't see any reason why they would gamble on not bringing Lewis in and then putting him out of position in the snake with the safety car.
Except that they've always been worried about Hamilton taking too much out of the soft tyre. Do you remember in Turkey? That's why he made 3 stops. He just takes more out of the tyres than the other drivers. But I tell you what, he's taken 1.4 seconds out of Massa on that last lap. He's now just 2.5 seconds behind him. We've still got 14 laps to go to the finish here, and this is set up beautifully, Ted Kravitz.
Okay, this is McLaren's explanation down here in the pits. We thought Lewis was fast enough to build the gap, so they would have known how many laps they had. We speculated when we thought that they were being clever, that they could stretch it well into the 50s, but they couldn't. They thought he was fast enough. He was not, Martin. So was that just a matter of maybe the tyres lost temperature, maybe they lost pressure under the safety car, and Lewis just couldn't do the laps in that to build that more than 15 seconds. But as you say, Martin, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but I'm not sure about these soft tyres, James. I just think McLaren cocked this one up.
Well, they may have thought that they would have cleared the Toyota out of the way quickly. There was a lot of debris on the track though, and they probably didn't allow for the lapped cars to go past the safety car and have to wait to come back round to the back of the field. And look at this, and look how close Hamilton is now to Massa. And Massa's not been at all fast. since the safety car went in. So you've got to assume as soon as Lewis arrives, he's got a chance to overtake that Ferrari, certainly down into the hairpin. So Piquet leads then on lap 55 by 1.9 seconds. And how much time is it going to take Lewis Hamilton to clear the Ferrari? And then he'll have to be after Piquet.
Well, I'll tell you something, Massa isn't exactly catching Piquet. In the last lap through, he was only a 10th quicker than the Renault driver in his first season. It's not really working, this Ferrari, on the harder tyre. And that could be quite decisive. Hamilton senses a real opportunity here. Can he pass both Massa and Piquet before the finish?
Well, what you're looking at there also is Kimi Raikkonen in 7th place with only 2 World Championship points if he finishes there. And look, Hamilton down into turn 2, right onto the tail then of that Ferrari. So he's got a job to do. He's got to pass 2 cars if he wants to win this Grand Prix.
This is like his GP2 season, isn't it? And funnily enough, Nelson Piquet was often one of the cars he was passing in that season. Well, we know from that how good he is at overtaking. Makes a bit of a mistake there. He's obviously getting a little bit pent up. This is a time for that famous poise and control he's been talking about to come back into the equation. But Martin, he's steaming up now on the back of Massa. We've seen him overtake Massa in the past and put some moves on him. Psychologically, what's Massa thinking? Because he knows that Hamilton's had him many times.
Well, Massa needs the points. He needs to keep Hamilton at bay. I think you're right. I think everybody will think that Lewis is the more decisive in the overtaking situation, and Felipe Massa will be thinking that too. And not only that, Lewis has got a faster car. He's just got to keep it calm somehow. And I think into the hairpin on this lap, I think Lewis was almost caught out by how early Massa had to brake there. Now he's into that horrible turbulent air zone. That's the problem. 6 critical corners at the end of the lap in the stadium. But now it opens up a little bit, and it's going to be here into turn 2, or down at the hairpin they label as turn 6 that it's going to be done.
That's definitely where he's closest to him, but as you say, it's getting close enough to him in the stadium and through the fast turn 1. Here we go.
This is it, surely. He's got the beautiful slipstream move there. Massa will have to go inside. He'll have to stay inside, otherwise Hamilton will just steal it, and that's what's going to happen. They're going to touch, but surely he's got it done now. He just pushes him outside, perfectly fair, and Massa gave him more space than he needed in the end.
Get in there, shout the McLaren mechanics. I imagine there's some disgruntled people down at Ferrari as Massa puts a show on here to come back at him. He has to do that, but that will not go down well with the boss of Ferrari, Luca Di Montezemolo. There were questions about these Ferrari drivers going into this Grand Prix, and once again they've been done by Hamilton. And now Nelson Piquet gets the sinking feeling. He's only just over 2 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton. There are 11 laps to go to the end, but Piquet's still looking at a podium here.
Yes, Massa basically should have put a little flag out, like, shove me off the racetrack, please, because he just put himself in a very vulnerable place there, and Lewis didn't need a second chance to disadvantage Massa, who's now got Heidfeld all over it. Here we go. Why didn't Massa stay inside? It was like an open invitation for Lewis there, and Lewis, beautiful driving. It's not outside of the regulations, just always pushing the Ferrari. Ferrari picks up the slipstream and comes right back at him, and decides to go down the outside and doesn't yield. He should have yielded at that point, because it's not going to happen. Now he's bumping down the curve, and he's got Heidfeld for company in the BMW. Another look at it. Look, Massa's got it done here. He's got it covered, and then just opens the door. And Lewis just on the fringe of locking the front wheels, and a little nerf here and there just to let him know what his intentions are.
I don't want to come down too hard on Felipe Massa here, but seeing that, if you were running Ferrari, would you be thinking, are we really going to win a world championship with this guy? And do I need to be getting Kubica or Alonso on the telephone after this race?
Yeah, that wasn't Felipe Massa's best lap of his career, let's put it that way. Piquet, lap 58, his lead was 2.1 seconds. And we'll see what's going on. Hamilton's taken 0.7 out of him so far in the first 2 sectors of this lap. We're on board with Fernando Alonso there for a while. Jarno Trulli, they've kept that other Toyota out. The suspension failure on Glock's clearly not bothered them, and that's Alonso spinning in replay. He's down in 10th at the moment, or he was.
How will he be feeling about the fact that his teammate, the rookie Nelson Piquet, just 23 years of age, his birthday coming up later this week, is leading this Grand Prix, and quick as he was in free practice. I mentioned earlier on, he was very unlucky. They got it a bit wrong with the timing of his qualifying runs yesterday that just didn't give him a chance, and he ended up 17th on the grid. He's taken advantage of the strategy with the safety car to find himself in the lead of this Grand Prix with 9 laps to go, and is staring solidly at a podium finish.
So Raikkonen chasing Kubica, then 6th and 7th, but Heidfeld in 4th is very, very close to Felipe Massa. Can he knock Massa off the podium, Nick Heidfeld? He's been very quick, fastest lap of the race. Nick Heidfeld has done. This is not the fight we're looking at the moment. It is BMW versus Ferrari in 2 separate parts of the racetrack, this particular one then. And look at Hamilton now, all over the back of Piquet. Surely Piquet's going to be defenceless against the flying Ferrari. This is GP2 all over again, isn't it? And that's not quite the place to do it. It'll be down at the hairpin, presumably, if Lewis gets himself a nice slipstream, and Piquet just a little bit wide through 2 and 3.
Okay, Nelson, you've got Hamilton behind you now. You need to keep pushing.
Here comes Hamilton then down the inside for the lead of the Grand Prix to take it back. He lost it under the safety car. He steams up the inside. He almost makes contact with his old rival from the GP2 days, but he makes it stick. And Lewis Hamilton is back in the lead of the German Grand Prix. Another brilliant passing manoeuvre.
Well, it's difficult for Piquet Jr. And look at this, Raikkonen versus Kubica, and Raikkonen takes it. It's that sweeper in towards the Mercedes chicane there. Kubica out of control, and that gives Raikkonen some breathing space, but supreme driving from Hamilton. Difficult for young Piquet. He'll be very happy with 2nd place, and he probably thought in the next 8 laps he's going to nail me somewhere. I'm not going to drop out of this Grand Prix, letting Lewis Hamilton past or fighting him too hard.
Well, he didn't make it easy for him, did he, Martin?
No, he didn't. He didn't at all, but like Massa, he left a door wide open where it needed to be. And Lewis, with that deft touch that he's got on the brake pedal, just, as I said before, on the edge of locking the wheels and sliding into his opponent. It's so hard to do that when you're busy watching him, you're busy shifting down 6 gears, trying to keep your car on the racing line and just finally judge your braking against the other driver. Another replay then of Raikkonen moving up to 6th place. Every point counts for Raikkonen today in the championship, of course.
Now, can Piquet keep Massa behind him? On that last lap, letting Hamilton go through, he lost 1.4 seconds to Massa.
Nelson, just keep focused and you'll consolidate 2nd place.
I think that's the point. He was doing quite well. He was only a 10th or 2 slower than Massa in the run-up to that overtake. And he's got a margin of 3.5 seconds with 7 laps to go. Massa's going to have to turn up the wick a little bit if he's going to pass him. And of course, he has to find a way through once he's actually caught him. So very interestingly set up here with Hamilton leading, Piquet 2nd, Massa 3rd, Heidfeld 4th, Kovalainen 5th, Raikkonen ahead of Kubica now in 6th place. And 8th place, Sebastian Vettel at the moment, still looking at getting a point here for Toro Rosso on his home circuit. Well, we saw earlier on that the accident of T.Glock. We saw him at least winded. Let's see if we can get a medical update now from Louise Goodman.
Yeah, I'm still down at the medical centre. T.Glock was brought here. He spent 15 minutes being checked over by the doctors. About 3 minutes ago, he was driven away in an ambulance with Riccardo Ciccarelli, who we heard from earlier on, the team doctor. He was on board as well. So they've taken Timo off to a local hospital. But the word we have from Thomas Villette, the team press, is that there are no visible injuries to Glock. Obviously, they want to double-check that, so further checks will be done at the hospital. But it's sounding like it's good news for Timo.
Thank you very much for that, Louise, and that's great. We rejoice at that news. Timo Glock would appear to be uninjured after a very nasty accident coming out of the final corner, went backwards into the pit wall, debris all over the track. That's what brought out the safety car. And at that point in the Grand Prix, Hamilton, who had dominated all through qualifying and the early part of the race, had an 11.5 second lead over Felipe Massa and lost it. The team decided not to bring him in when everyone else came in for their final pit stop. They thought they had enough of a margin in terms of laps to the finish. Safety car stayed out perhaps a bit longer than expected. Also possibly they didn't want to take too much of a gamble with Hamilton on these soft tyres. We'll find out at the end what their rationale was for not bringing him in, but it meant that he lost the lead, dropped to 4th, and since then he's had to fight his way back through the field. A lot of people say you can't overtake in Formula 1, but Hamilton's one of a number of drivers here this afternoon who've proved that is completely untrue.
Piquet maintaining a 3.2 second lead over this battle. There's the championship prediction if the race stopped now on the right-hand side. Hamilton would lead Massa by 4 World Championship points. Raikkonen 7 behind then in 3rd place. Still 5 laps to go, of course. And Heidfeld just maintaining station now behind the Ferrari. There's a podium place on the end of the nose of his car. And this is Vettel, who had been fighting Jarno Trulli and passes him. Now that's important. That is up to 8th place and a World Championship point for Vettel and Toro Rosso if that one works out.
Well, 5th place Kovalainen is only 3.5 seconds clear of Kimi Raikkonen, who's lapping significantly faster than him at the moment. We've only got 4 laps to go to the finish, but that's one that's worth keeping an eye on as well. But you have to pay tribute once again to the craftiness and wiliness of Nick Heidfeld, don't you? Terrible qualifying session again. Seems to have problems getting the tyres to work for him over a single qualifying lap, and is completely outclassed in that area by teammate Kubica. So started this Grand Prix 12th, and he's now up into 4th place with a chance of a podium if he can get in front of Massa. Meanwhile, Kubica, who started well in front of him on the grid, is down in 7th place. So people criticise Nick Heidfeld, but he's a tremendous racer.
Piquet's come alive, hasn't he? He smells a brilliant podium here this afternoon in the German Grand Prix. So from being nowhere on a one-stopper, the safety car came out just at the perfect time, put him right up the queue in the snake, as some drivers like Hamilton here and Heidfeld chose not to pit. It just worked out perfectly, but all credit to him. He's making it stick now, and he's just done a personal best 1st and 2nd sector of the entire Grand Prix. So Nelson Piquet just coming alive and coming of age, you'd have to say, in these last few laps.
Yeah, he's had a lot of pressure on him, lots of dark murmurings about maybe being replaced by GP2 racer Romain Grosjean. There's Lucas Degrassi floating around, who's also a Renault young driver scheme member. And well, he's had a difficult start to his Formula 1 career. Managed to pick up a couple of points in France, cheekily passing his teammate Fernando Alonso in the closing stages at Magny-Cours. That started to set his season alight. Silverstone, he was a bit disappointed. He thought he could have done better on a track he knows and loves. But this weekend he was quick all the way through practice. Very unlucky yesterday with the timing of his runs in qualifying, and a fully deserved hatful of points coming his way at the end of a hugely eventful and again very entertaining Grand Prix.
Yeah, Alonso's going to be wondering what's going on. I mean, little Piquet failed to get out of Quali 1 yesterday, didn't he? Started at the back of the grid, more or less. Alonso started on the 3rd row, and he's down in 11th at the moment. So it'll be Piquet that'll get, hopefully, he finishes the race fine, that'll get, as Alonso backs that Renault into the hairpin, it'll be Piquet that gets Renault's first podium of the year.
Yeah, first podium for a while, I think, since Kovalainen in Japan last year. Meanwhile, 2-time world champion teammate Fernando Alonso is struggling with Sebastian Bourdais over 11th and 12th places behind the Williams of Nico Rosberg, and significantly with this podium finish for Piquet, Renault will move in front of Williams in the Constructors' Championship, so that will drop Williams down another place. After a great start to the season for Williams, 9 points in Australia, they've averaged less than a point a race since then. And let's get a final word from Ted Kravitz.
Yeah, just still down in the McLaren garage, I'll tell you, the sense of relief down here is massive. But they did feel that whatever they did really with the safety car, they did have the pace to win, and they've been proved right on that count, have McLaren. But dear me, they might have made it hard for themselves. But if that was their plan, if it all went to their plan, then they are pretty clever. Cleverer than us down here sometimes, so well done to them.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a great victory if he manages to make it stick, but I think it'll definitely be more few than Yahoo for the McLaren team. A massive sense of relief, because it could have gone so very, very wrong.
Well, what helped it out was Massa has been nowhere really since the safety car went in on these tyres, and also obviously PK was in the mix as well. Hamilton could quickly get past Kovalainen, so that was helpful that it was friendly fire there, and that set him free. But he has had the pace, he's had the pace all day, and their confidence was not misplaced, but they had to take a lot of risks in the end. You don't need to be taking risks passing Massa and PK down at the hairpin unless you have to. That's where championships get won and lost, but right now it's looking very good indeed.
Certainly is. Massa has fallen behind PK some more now to 3.5 seconds. So no scrap at all really for second place here this afternoon, and Massa I think will once again be feeling a bit crestfallen. Not as bad as he was leaving Silverstone, but nevertheless he was offered an opportunity to win this Grand Prix. He did not take it, and instead Lewis Hamilton, who had every opportunity to win it in the early stages, almost had it taken away from him, and he had to go out and win it back again, and he has done so with a fantastic performance. Again controlled when he needed to be, again aggressive when he needed to be, and he will come through now to take his 4th victory of this season. A wonderful victory for Lewis Hamilton, and McLaren's first here at Hockenheim for 10 years.
PK crosses the line then, second for Renault, good for him. Massa takes the final podium slot. Heidfeld couldn't do anything about it. Kovalainen 5th, 12.5 seconds behind Hamilton. Raikkonen couldn't do anything about Kovalainen, was closing quite quickly but stays 6th. Kubica beaten again by Heidfeld today, is 7th, and Vettel 9 seconds down the road should pick up the final World Championship point to make a very happy Gerhard Berger and the Toro Rosso team.
Back-to-back victories then for Lewis Hamilton, Silverstone and Hockenheim, his 8th career win, and we'll get the celebrations for him in a moment.
Great drive, Lewis. I'm very sorry that we made it a little bit more difficult for you, but wanted you to have the opportunity of driving a great car, and hope you enjoyed it. But absolutely fantastic job. Well done.
That's okay, Ron. That's a good excuse. Don't worry.
Lewis Hamilton leads the Drivers' Championship by an increased margin now over Felipe Massa and Kimi Raikkonen as a result of his 2nd victory in a row this season. There is Nelson Piquet Jr., whose father, a 3 times world champion, and this will ease the pressure on his shoulders a lot. What a tremendous weekend he has had. In 3rd place, Felipe Massa. We heard on the radio at the end Ron Dennis, the boss of McLaren, saying to Lewis Hamilton, we made you work a little harder for that than we should have done. And Ted Kravitz is now with Ron Dennis, and I imagine he's feeling very, very relieved, Ted.
Yeah, well, Ron, what is the feeling? Relief?
No, not really. We expected the safety car to come in earlier. There wasn't much debris on the circuit. We knew we were going to be a 2.5 quicker when it was in, so we got it a little bit wrong, but made a great race. Some overtaking manoeuvres that are rarely seen in motorsport these days. So
it's true. We always complain when there isn't any overtaking, and you gave us some. But did you have to make it? You didn't really need to make it so hard for yourself.
Well, that's true. But you can't get it right all the time. And as I said, there wasn't much debris on the circuit. We think the race could have started 3 laps earlier. But it's safety's paramount. So if that's what Charlie decided to do, so be it.
Very briefly before Lewis gets his trophy, quick word on his drive though. Another corker.
Yeah, it was a fantastic drive, and we had a lot of pace, and slowing him down was a little difficult sometimes, but great race. We're very happy.
Well done, Ron.
Who's your driver of the day?
Nelson Piquet, because he really, I thought he'd be under pressure from Massa, and he just stepped up a gear when he had to and delivered the goods. It was a great drive from him. And his dad, a winner here in 81, 86 and 87, I think, but maybe he'll be a winner one day too. PK 2nd at the moment. I think the significance of this drive today from Lewis, though, is he's going to start to think he can win a Grand Prix from any position.
Career victory then for Lewis Hamilton. Quite an amazing strike rate, considering he's only started 27 Grand Prix. Almost a third of them then ending up in victory. And that joins the Silverstone Cup, the Australian Cup and the Monaco Cup this year in his trophy collection.
First win for Mercedes since 1999 when Häkkinen won this Grand Prix for them.
Norbert Haud there, delighted. Mercedes have been toiling away. They desperately want to win a world championship now. It's been 99 again, the last time they did it, after those years of Ferrari domination. Absolutely ecstatic, Nelson Piquet. Phenomenal performance by the strategy team at Renault. Worked really well for them, and he deserved his drive. He was quick all weekend. And Felipe Massa doesn't look too upset, has to put a brave face on it.
He's looking a lot happier than I thought he would. Ferrari were rash today in many respects. Third for Massa, sixth for Raikkonen on a track where we could have expected them to be very strong indeed.
So we've seen a fresh mix of the daredevil and the controlled racer this weekend from Lewis Hamilton. He's maturing, becoming harder and harder to beat in this 2008 championship.
Yes, a race full of a very different kind of tension to Silverstone 2 weeks ago, and for Lewis Hamilton, a different kind of challenge. But not only was he equal to it, he rose above it. And Mark Blundell, the master of the wet 2 weeks ago, is now the master of attack.
I think he just stepped up to another gear. He's definitely in a class of his own today, and I think he's going to be in a class of his own to the end of the season. And if Ferrari have got any more troubles like they've had all weekend, they're certainly going to be dropping behind McLaren very quickly.
And victory in this German Grand Prix now gives Lewis Hamilton the clear lead in the Drivers' Championship. We'll have more reaction to another quite fantastic Hamilton drive right after the break. After Silverstone 2 weeks ago, it's been another astonishing Grand Prix and another wonderful victory for Lewis Hamilton. But this time he had to force his way past Felipe Massa and Nelson Piquet in the closing stages. Hamilton wins from Piquet, who's on the podium for the first time. Massa should have been rather dispirited at being beaten into third, and then Heidfeld, Kovalainen, Raikkonen, Kubica and Vettel complete those point scorers. But most importantly, from Lewis's point of view, it now gives him the clear lead in the Drivers' Championship by 4 points from Massa. Raikkonen and Kubica losing ground. Nick Heidfeld gaining ground in fifth place. Mark Blundell, another astonishing... We're running out of superlatives when it comes to Lewis Hamilton, aren't we?
I think he has definitely gone up to a different level now, and I think it's all off the back of Silverstone. And I think in some ways, Steve, he just calmed down inside the cockpit, and now you're seeing Lewis just mature a little bit inside the car, and those kind of things that we saw today in terms of the overtaking, the pace, I mean outright pace from lap one.
Yeah, and it was the safety car after the midpoint that gave us a chance to see so much more of Lewis's talents. It was a race he was in complete control of, it seemed, in the first half after a pretty good start.
It just looked like he was using cruise control, but at the start he got away very cleanly. I think there was a couple of little problems for some of the guys further down the grid, but you actually felt at this point Lewis was in complete control because he got off the start cleanly. Massa tried to pull into his way there, but just tucked in behind, and he pulled out over a second and a half on lap one. Look at the distance now between him and Massa. Kovalainen is trying to get by Massa, trying to make the most of getting in front of that Ferrari to help McLaren out. But on behind there, you just see going into the hairpin, a couple of little problems for a few of the guys. Toyota getting wide, Renault getting pushed out, Alonso there, one of the Williams creeping by. A little bit messy in the mid-pack.
He was in a class of his own. The car was in a class of its own as well. At one point, the lead was around about 11 seconds, and then Glock had this huge crash which brought out the safety car.
Well, this is the turning point of the race, really, caused by Glock's accident, and nothing to do with Glock at this point. Basically had a right rear suspension failure. As he just got onto the corner, the loaded car then just unloading with that suspension failure and flicking him into the wall. He hit the wall backwards, big impact. Just watch the car here, just flicks across the circuit. There's nothing Glock can do about that. He would have taken a very, very big impact, high G there, and I think it basically took the wind out of him. But again, safety car has to come out. Very much the turning point of the race today.
Safety car is never good when you're leading a race, but it put McLaren in a very difficult situation, didn't it?
It put them in a very difficult situation because at this stage they probably had 30-odd laps where Lewis would have been on the softer tyre. They obviously didn't have the confidence to leave him out for that long, so they chose to not put him in the pit when everybody else did.
He didn't quite make up the time they were wanting, so he came out behind Massa, behind Piquet, and what an exhibition he turned on.
Well, I mean, at this stage here, this is classic overtaking from Lewis Hamilton. I'm very, very surprised, actually, that Massa made the room. I think if Massa would have just stayed on line, he would have made it so much more difficult for Lewis. He'd have had to go the long way around and at least counteracted another lap there for him trying to make that move. But, you know, again, Lewis Hamilton is phenomenal at overtaking. We've seen him do it time and time again. Massa tries to come back, but it's pointless. Lewis has got the line, squeezes him back off the circuit again. He's entitled to do that. He's taken his race line. He's in front.
And then the move on Piquet, who was fueled through to the finish. Well, that was inevitable, wasn't it?
Very much so, but you have to give Nelson Piquet 10 out of 10 today. Great race for him. Again, a little bit gracious and giving the room. You cannot afford to give Lewis Hamilton an inch, let alone a car width. He goes into the hairpin, very, very confident on the brakes. Just watch him take the speed in. He locks up a wheel, just takes the speed down, just gets into the apex cleanly, gets on the throttle, again pushes little Nelson Piquet out onto the left-hand side. Job done.
But well done, Nelson Piquet, on making it onto the podium for the first time. He's in the drivers' press conference with Felipe Massa, and most importantly, the winner of this German Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton.
Well, Lewis, I guess on behalf of all race fans around the world, I have to thank you very much for making that such an exciting race by not coming in under the safety car and giving yourself so much work to do in the latter phase of the race.
Well, thank you. Well, first of all, I didn't plan on doing that. I would have much preferred an easy, comfortable afternoon out in front, but it didn't work that way. But we had got off to a really good start. We had two very comfortable, very decent stints, and the team opted for me to stay out, and I guess they thought that I could have pulled the gap, but I mean, it was a 23-second gap I needed, and I had like 7 laps or something, so I don't know how that worked out, but so I kind of understood and thought, I just kept pushing. I was over the limit, pushing, trying to get the gap, but I came out behind, I think I was with Kimi, and I was behind someone else. I think it was Heikki. And I have to say a big thank you to Heikki. He's been a great teammate, and you know, he didn't put up a huge fight and saw that I was quicker, so enabled me to get past quicker. And so a big thank you to him. But I was able to put it off. I had good tyres, and I guess it was exciting for you. It was exciting for me still.
I take it then there was not much discussion between you and the team on the radio about that decision?
Not really, no. You know, I said, you know, you sure about this? And they said fine. But you know, we all make we all have our decisions and opinions on certain things, and for sure we'll learn from this one and we'll move on to the next race. But still, we had the best car, the quickest car this weekend, and we came out on top. So that's due to a lot of hard work from all the guys here. Just the team is fantastic here and also back home and also in Germany. They've all done a phenomenal job.
And let's just talk about those two great passes or races you had with the guys either side of you, Nelson and Felipe.
Yeah, well, with Felipe, I saw that I was a lot quicker than him. I was told I was a second quicker than him at the time. So I just tried to keep up the pace. I knew that obviously I was on an early few laps of my tyres, so I knew I only had a small window to get past him before they began to grain and before they would slide around. So I had to push and get as close to him as possible. But the great thing about this track is you can follow other people, or so I found. And so I was able to get quite close through the last two corners, follow him all the way down to turn 2 and slipstream him. But again, towards the end of the straight, he sort of matched my speed, so it was a bit difficult to get past, but I just had to do it on the brakes. You know, he gave me plenty of room. I think it was quite a fair battle. It was good fun. And I think for Nelson again, I thought my work was done, and they said you still have to get past Nelson. I was thinking, okay, I'll just work my backside off, but that's fine. And again, he put on a really good battle, but again, it was very fair.
That was Lewis's reaction. You can hear more from that press conference on the ITV F1 website. And in our highlights programme a little later this evening, we've learned a lot about Lewis.